Councilmember Park.
Present.
Councilmember McCosker.
Here.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Here.
3 members and a quorum, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. We will now proceed to public comment for members of the public wishing to give general comment or a comment on items specific to today's agenda. I will turn it over to our city clerk to provide the necessary information for the public to dial in, and our city attorney to explain the speaking rules to members of the public who are calling in. So, Mr. Clerk, if you would, please read the instructions for the public to call in.
Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 161-769-6039 and then press pound. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Hong, if you would, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To members of the public calling in, when it is your turn to speak, please state which of the agenda items you would like to speak on. You have 1 minute per item to speak, 2 minutes total for multiple agenda items, and 1 minute for general public comment. We will tell you when your time is up. When speaking on the agenda items, you must be on topic. If you're making a general public comment, you must address topics in the jurisdiction of this committee. If you're not speaking on topic, or if we cannot tell whether you're speaking on topic, you will get 1 brief warning from the chair or me. If you do not immediately get back on topic or again stray off topic, the chair will cut you off and you will forfeit the rest of your speaking time. Finally, for members of the public calling in to speak, as soon as you hear someone address you, you are live in the committee meeting. If you're also listening to the meeting on your computer, channel 35 or other device, please turn down the volume on those devices immediately to avoid an echo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hong. I appreciate that. We are ready to begin public comment. Are there any callers on the line?
Yes. Caller, if you could state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Yes, the goat puppet. All items and general comment.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
Who's that? Well, that's the nice lady from CD11. Oh, yeah, she's trying to clean things up. See, Hugo? That's a real council member, unlike you. So again, what do we have here today? We have all of these consultant contracts. Now, Pat and Tracy, you understand what this is, but we'll explain it to Hugo so he can understand it. Basically, you take out a shovel, and you dig in your backyard, and you give the cash to your developer. And then you give it to your campaign consultant, and then they donate to the office holder account of CD11 and 15. What about the council member? Well, they have to be careful right now. They can't give away money until Jose Huizar's in jail to make sure he doesn't sing. And then you get a consulting contract. So again, all of you that are here, you're ready to feed off of the city. Nom, 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 yum, yum, yum. Yes, that's it. And Hugo doesn't even understand what we're doing here today. Yes, it's called legal money laundering. It's a good sport at City Hall. And of course, we have the Port of Los Angeles, and Goat Puppet reviewed the materials. Did you know, Pat, you're down 40% on shipping? Yes, all those union jobs. How are you going to pay those new contracts if we're down 40% on business at the port? So we have to find out what to do. And now Goat Puppet will go to his general comment. So, as you see there, Hugo, you have Tracy doing a good job cleaning up CD11 and making it pretty. And then you have Pat McCosker, who will also clean up his district. But they need to take the homeless criminals out of CD11 and 14 and 11, and they need to dump them somewhere. And that's why you're on this committee, because Hugo will take all of your homeless criminals out of CD11 and the port and CD15 in the airport. Let's give them a hand. Hey, see, that's how we do it. Yes. Did you know, Tracy, that Hugo's going to take down the fence between the animals and the people over at Echo Park? Did you know he's going to do that? The one thing that the late Mitchell Farrell did right was put that fence up. Their puppet is calling for the fence to be remaining up until 2029. Why? A year after the Olympics. Yes, that's what we're doing here. Trading votes.
All right, thanks, Go.
Flying
Your
out-
time's up. All right, are there any other callers in the queue?
There are no other callers with their hands raised at this time.
All right, thank you very much. That will conclude public comment for today. So unless there are any objections from my colleagues, I would like to move item 1 on consent. Councilmember Soto Martinez, McCosker, any objections to that? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Councilmember McOsker,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Yes.
3 ayes, and this item is approved.
All right, thank you. So unless, sorry. Right, so we are going to go ahead and move on to item 2. Mr. Clerk, if you would please read the item for us.
Yes, Madam Chair. Item number 2 is a motion, McOsker Harris Dawson, relative to the request for the Port of Los Angeles to report on the status of the Clean Hydrogen Hubs grant application with the Alliance for Renewable Clean Hydrogen Systems, including award amounts, other city departments involved, the application and project timelines, and collaboration efforts with state and federal partners. This item was in Energy and Environment Committee on March 10th, 2023, Energy and Environment Committee approved this matter. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Unless there are questions or comments from my colleagues, I would move that we concur with the Energy and Environment Committee report and approve this item with the following technical amendment. Request the Port of Los Angeles, in collaboration with the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, to report on the status of its Clean Hydrogen Hubs grant application with the Alliance for Renewable Clean Hydrogen Systems, including on how the application will ensure that any hydrogen used by any city agency or department meet the definition of green hydrogen as described in Council File number 22-0255, what safeguards are being proposed to protect public health and safety, award amounts, and other city departments involved, the application and project timelines, and collaboration efforts with state and federal partners, environmental justice, and community organizations. Are there any questions or comments with respect to that technical amendment?
None, thank you.
Okay. Anything, Councilmember Soto Martinez? No? All right, thank you. Then, Mr. Clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Councilmember Park,
Yes?
Councilmember McOsker,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Yes.
3 ayes, and this item is approved as amended.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So that will bring us to item number 3. Mr. Clerk, if you would, please read that item for us.
Item number 3 is a motion, McOsker Hutt, relative to the future plans of the Port of Los Angeles to utilize hydrogen energy for human-operated equipment used at port terminals in order to achieve its emission reduction goals. Energy and Environment Committee approved this matter on March 10th, 2023. Thank you.
All right, are there any questions or comments from any of our committee members? All right, so I see 2 heads shaking no. So I'd like to move that we concur with the Energy and Environment Committee report and approve this item. If you would, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Park,
Yes?
Councilmember McOsker,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Yes. 3
ayes, and this item is approved.
All right, thank you very much. And now that will bring us to item number 4. Mr. Clerk, if you could please read that item for us.
Item number 4 is a verbal quarterly report on the status of department activities for the Port of Los Angeles.
All All right. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I believe Mr. Soroka is here with us today to give the quarterly report. Yep, there he is. Sorry, I see you here in my Zoom chat. Thank you for being here with us. The floor is yours.
Great. Good afternoon, Chair Park, Vice Chair McCosker, and Councilmember Soto Martinez. Thanks for this opportunity to address the new composition of the Trade, Travel, and Tourism Committee. My name is Gene Soroka, Executive Director at the Port of Los Angeles, and I've had the pleasure to serve in this capacity for nearly 9 years. My career in the maritime industry began back in 1988. I've worked nationally and internationally in sales and management for American President Lines, being domiciled overseas in Asia and the Middle East for 11 of those years. I'm here before you to provide an update on several topics and areas of interest to this committee concerning the Port of Los Angeles. For this update, I'll focus on the following items: the latest on our cargo operations, our thriving cruise industry, the LA Waterfront, Fleet Week, State Road number 47 construction projects, and how the Port of Los Angeles is using hydrogen as a way to achieve our zero emissions goals. First, I'll start with cargo operations. The supply chain challenges that we've all faced over the past several years really began back in 2018, with the US and China governments facing off in a trade war. Then in 2020, after a brief dip in cargo at the start of the pandemic, consumer spending took off like never before. Now, as we're entering into a post-pandemic era, we're seeing different trends in our 8 lines of business. Cruise, waterfront visitors, perishable commodities, and vehicles are all seeing increases, whereas containers, liquid bulk steel, and recycled metals are down, and in some cases precipitously. On the cruise side of our business, 229 cruise vessels departed from the LA waterfront in 2022, the most since year 2008. We'll see just as many sailings this year, if not more. And that's an economic benefit of more than $250 million to our local communities and LA's tourism sector. That economic benefit surrounds a 2-mile radius of GDP input here in the Harbor District. Thanks to Princess Cruises, Norwegian Cruise Line, Royal Caribbean, and Celebrity Cruises, Los Angeles is fast becoming the West Coast port with the most diverse and exciting cruise vacation opportunities. To support that growth, the Port of Los Angeles released a draft request for proposal for the development of an outer harbor cruise terminal. Responses were collected on March 3rd, and a draft RFP for input allows us to leverage the expertise and creativity of prospective proposers, as well as get important feedback from businesses, our local community, and the public in general. To date, on the LA waterfront, $245 million in total project allocation between the enclaves of San Pedro and Wilmington as a result of the port's Public Access Investment Plan, or PAIP, have already been codified. The PAIP was the first in the nation to take infrastructure agency like the Port of Los Angeles and dedicate specific funds for waterfront development and public access here in our community. This program was first adopted back in 2015 and is a budgetary guideline for public access investment on our waterfront. The Port of Los Angeles committed to spend 10% of its annual operating income on projects developed with and for our communities. The Harbor Boulevard realignment, San Pedro Promenade Phase 1, and Town Square represent a few of the Public Access Investment Plan projects already delivered and in use by our community. In various stages of development are Phase 2 of the San Pedro Promenade, Harbor Boulevard Parkway improvements, the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium Life Support System, and the San Pedro Connectivity Plan. The Connectivity Plan is a dynamic long-term planning document that builds on existing waterfront public access and private development objectives. It further develops a conceptual program to guide future port improvements and private development sites. Further, it creates an opportunity for a network of well-connected, multi-use spaces that are internally and externally accessible to locals and the larger region as a whole. The purpose of the connectivity plan is strictly to serve as a conceptual visioning document that will be periodically updated. Subsequent project implementation is subject to change depending on market influences, permitting, applicable laws, and future board along with city council discretion through our annual budgeting process. The connectivity plan is hosting a series of public input sessions. To date, the port has hosted a focus group, a larger community meeting, and a community pop-up at San Pedro's first Thursday. A second focus group is tentatively scheduled for April, and a second community meeting along with a pop-up are both tentatively scheduled for the month of May. The draft plan will be presented to the Harbor Commission for their input, and it will be incorporated with the overall plan and goal of finalizing this connectivity plan during the third quarter of this year. There are a number of projects on the Wilmington side of our LA waterfront as well. The promenade is scheduled to open this August. Currently in design are the Wilmington Youth Sailing Center and the Avalon Promenade and Gateway, both phases 1 and 2. Planning for LA Fleet Week is on our docket next for 2023, and we've shifted into high gear. Last Wednesday, Port Senior Communications Director Arlie Baker and our community relations team hosted the second of 3 Fleet Week planning conferences right here at the Port of Los Angeles. Exactly 9 weeks from now, on Tuesday, May 23rd, 3 active Navy vessels, a Coast Guard cutter, and a variety of military air assets, more than 1,000 sailors, Marines, and Coast Guard members, along with soldiers from Fort Irwin's Armor and Desert Training Center, will start to arrive on the Port of Los Angeles LA waterfront for our 7th in-person LA Fleet Week. LA Fleet Week is our region's largest Memorial Day weekend event, and according to Gallup, which measures on-site visitor satisfaction for the Department of the Navy, our Fleet Week represents the gold standard of public engagement between the Department of Navy and the citizens they serve. Unlike the other 6 to 8 official Fleet Week events throughout the nation, LA Fleet Week represents a unique public-private partnership between the Port, City of Los Angeles as the official hosts, the Department of the Navy, the LA Fleet Week Foundation, the U.S. Army, the Bob Hope USO, and dozens of local organizations that help facilitate community relations events or COMRELs throughout the week. LA Fleet Week is also the platform for hosting non-public emergency response meetings and exercises that are organized by our colleagues here at the City of Los Angeles Emergency Management Department. And this year, we're pleased to work with Brian Williams, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass's new deputy mayor for public safety, and his team at the Department of Emergency Management. LA Fleet Week activities around the defense support to civilian authorities, known as DISCA, are coordinated over many months by the Emergency Management Department with the goal of coordinating city, county, state, and federal level disaster response experts with our nation's sea services in the event of a major catastrophic event that requires naval assistance. An estimated 65,000 visitors will attend the LA Fleet Week event at the foot of the battleship Iowa. From there, thousands hop on a shuttle to tour the Navy ships in the outer harbor. Across the region, through dozens of COMRELs and sailor activities, LA Fleet Week reaches an estimated 215,000 people, making their presence known at professional sporting events, regional theme parks, television shows, and many other programmed activities. For the first time in public, this year's Fleet Week team is coordinating with city and community leaders, including your district, Madam Chair, District 11, to organize day-long local block party activations along the following 4 locations: Venice Beach, downtown Los Angeles, Hollywood, and in the city of Brea. Those neighborhood activations will include live music from the Navy and Marine bands, hundreds of sightseeing and ready for fun sailors and Marines, and a number of organized games activities for the locals and our military guests to enjoy together. Moving on to our next topic, State Road 47 and the Vincent Thomas Bridge here in San Pedro. There are a few capital projects scheduled for State Road 47 in the coming months and years that this committee and the public should be aware of. Front Street and Harbor Boulevard interchange realignment starts off our discussion thanks to this committee for your recent support of both the freeway agreement with Caltrans and our construction management contract with Fountainhead Consulting. This project will start construction in December of this year, 2023, and end the project in November of 2026. Next is our Navy Way Seaside Avenue interchange improvements, which is a Port of Los Angeles project. We'll start construction in January of 2026 and complete the project in July of 2028. This schedule, though, is dictated by grant funding and may change if grant awards are changed or unfunded. We'll keep this committee posted. Also under State Road 47, bridge redecking, which is also a Caltrans project, and this is for the Vincent Thomas Bridge. Construction will begin in October of 2026, and the project end date is scheduled for March of 2027. The Port of Los Angeles recognizes the importance of this project and shares Vice Chair McCosker's concerns about the impacts to traffic within our port complex and surrounding communities, particularly Wilmington. Both the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles are meeting with the Caltrans District 7 director in early April, and will encourage that leadership to continue to keep one lane open on the bridge during their construction timeline and to develop the best possible detour plan for all affected by the project. Now on to my last topic, hydrogen. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the port is doing in this area, but before I do so, I think it's important to put in context a little bit of historical value around our Clean Air Action Plan, which was first adopted and implemented back in 2006 between the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. At that time, the CAP was adopted as a plan to reduce air emissions from sources throughout the San Pedro Bay. It was so spectacularly successful that some 6 years ahead of time, all goals that were committed to our community and this city were achieved or nearly achieved. And it was at that time in 2015 that we called for an update to the Clean Air Action Plan, which was ultimately voted on in a group meeting between the Harbor Commissions of Los Angeles and Long Beach, now called the 2017 CAP update. And in addition to all of the work that had been done before, reducing diesel particulate matter by nearly 90%, sulfur oxide by 97%, and nitrogen oxide reduced by 64%, we now wanted to go a step further to eliminate all emissions from cargo handling equipment by the year 2030, and all emissions from heavy-duty trucks calling the port and moving cargo by the year 2035. No other port in the world has met our objectives with the Clean Air Action Plan, nor our ambitious goals on zero emissions that I've just outlined. Operators here in the port complex will likely use a combination of technologies. And while the port has maintained a level of neutrality on those technologies for cleaner propulsion systems and equipment, likely we'll see some operations using battery electric capabilities and those that may migrate toward hydrogen fuel cell technology. In front of us, we have an extremely unique opportunity presented by the United States Department of Energy. offering as part of the infrastructure law, the bipartisan infrastructure law recently passed, as 4 hydrogen hubs across the country. The DOE is slated to issue $10 billion in regional grants to develop those clean hydrogen locations. A notice of funding opportunity was released by the DOE back in September of 2022. And as stated, the maximum award will be up to $1.25 billion for the winners in the hydrogen hub application process. Projects are expected to showcase the entire hydrogen supply chain, from production to storage, distribution, and end use, as pathways towards widespread decarbonization in various market sectors continue to be the guiding paramount. The benefits of hydrogen, although be it early days, are numerous. Potential capability for long-haul freight movement up to as much as 400 miles for trucks, and longer duty cycles for cargo handling equipment on marine terminals are 2 highlights thus far. Hydrogen also offers comparable driver experience to that of diesel equipment for heavy-duty trucks, as well as those cargo handling units on marine terminals. Both fueling time and range are also uniquely comparable to the predecessor technologies. Fueling infrastructure at a large scale is also something that needs to take place, and vehicle weight is comparable to other current options. And that's very important in the freight industry, as today battery capability is still very heavy, although technology will continue to improve. Our experience with hydrogen fuel cell applications here at the port is also numerous, starting with the Shore to Store project, a California Air Resources Board dedicated series of funding under a ZANZEF grant that created the opportunity to bring 10 on-road heavy-duty Class 8 trucks to the port complex and 2 fueling stations, along with yard tractor demonstrations at one of our marine terminals, TRAPAC. And those 2 yard tractors began their demonstrations in year 2002. The hydrogen project timeline starts with participating as the Port of Los Angeles, City of Los Angeles, in the State of California-led Alliance for Clean Renewable Hydrogen Energy Systems, also known as ARCHES. The statewide proposal is due to the Department of Energy by April 7th of this year, and the initial award will include a 12 to 18-month planning phase. The work here in the San Pedro Bay project to be done in the planning phase is to work very closely with marine terminal operators on their participation and exact equipment specifications. The opportunity to work with original equipment manufacturers and tiered suppliers for that stage 1 deployment, and determine fueling solutions, short-term, interim, and longer-term to scale. ARCHES will provide the details on the green hydrogen source, finalize budgets and cost-sharing amounts across the state and with its partnerships, both in the public and private sectors. And it is ARCHES' responsibility to contract all project elements. Madam Chair, that concludes my update for this afternoon, and I'm happy to take on any questions or advice the committee may have. Thank you.
Mr. Soroka, thank you so much for that jam-packed, very exciting, and expertly delivered quarterly update. Really appreciate all of that information. You know, there are a few things that you mentioned that really stood out to me. The uptick in tourism in and around the ports that really benefits the entire city of Los Angeles, the development work that has gone on, the opening up of public spaces is so exciting, the transportation improvements, and the greening and sustainability initiatives that the port is setting a leading example for other agencies around the world is all fantastic. And I want to congratulate you and commend you and Councilmember McCosker as well for all of the hard work that you do on behalf of the port. On behalf of Venice and CD11, I wanted to add to this that we are super stoked to have Fleet Week Fleet Week joining us on the west side, and you can rest assured I will be out there in person enjoying the festivities. I have just one quick question, and then I will kick it over to my colleagues. The Port of Los Angeles, obviously, is essential to our economy here in Los Angeles. And I wonder if you have any thoughts about how we can better connect small businesses from all over the city of Los Angeles with economic development opportunities in and around the port.
Oh, this is something we drive for every day, Chair Park, in consultation with not only the U.S. Department of Commerce and their local work on the ground here in Los Angeles, as well as our Trade Connect division right here at the port that does outreach to small, medium-sized, and larger companies on doing business. You know, as you well know, Los Angeles County is still the largest employer of manufacturing jobs in the country, with nearly 390,000 of county residents participating in that sector. Yet only about 1% of manufacturers in the county export their goods overseas. So we've rallied now for some time trying to get folks educated, connect them with overseas buyers, and do more to show what trade facilitation can mean for companies big and small. Look forward to this committee's advice and guidance on how we can go even levels deeper on that, but part of a core competency that we have here, yet we're striving to do more every day.
Fantastic. Really appreciate it. So at this point, I will turn it over to my committee members. Councilmember McCosker, anything that you'd like to add here to our discussion?
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. I have to tell you, members, I know Mr. Soroka very well, and he brings us energy to every single meeting. And I've been gratified to have a number of opportunities to sit with him and his leadership team and go over a number of these projects. So I do have a few questions because everything is so dynamic. And Mr. Soroka, thank you for the overview. I wanted to ask about arches, due on the April 7th. I'm sure the answer is yes, but I just wanted to make sure that you felt that we were on track and ready to submit and that we were going to have a competitive application.
I do, and I had the privilege of traveling with California's Lieutenant Governor, Eleni Kounalakis, and Director of Governor Newsom's Business and Economic Development Department, Dee Dee Myers, to Japan last week on a trade mission. And that trade mission included our clean energy work at a conference in Tokyo, as well as additional partnerships in the private sector there. Very famous worldwide brands like Toyota, Denso, Panasonic, Hitachi, all were there, and folks that we've been working with a long time. Yeah. So creating awareness around this hydrogen value chain was one of the biggest pieces. And I am assured by state leadership that we are right on track for this first submittal of our application within the DOE's Hydrogen Hub process. We'll keep this committee and you individually here in the 1-5, Vice Chair McCosker, up to date all the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have had the chance to see some of the Toyota demonstrations on the engine conversions, and I thought that was very exciting, but I realize that's just a small piece of all of this. I wanted to also ask, or thank you actually, for the presentation on that intersection, literally and figuratively, of the Vincent Thomas and the off-ramp improvement. So it sounds like we have a bit of a temporal separation as well as a commitment to keep one lane of the Vincent Thomas open in each direction, of course, for the duration of that construction, which I would imagine reasonably will stretch out that construction. Does that mean the construction of the recapping or resurfacing the Vincent Thomas might take about a year or so?
It probably goes a little bit longer than originally anticipated, but making sure that we have vehicular traffic flowing during that time is absolutely key. Working on alternative routes, as well as that you have suggested with our Caltrans colleagues, is also part of the larger development. So while we'll try to speed this project through and hit timeline commitments, we have to have a little bit of flexibility based on the traffic flows in the original design. Yet our goal is to finish on time at that budget and keep folks moving back and forth across from Terminal Island to San Pedro through Wilmington and over to Long Beach.
Great. Thanks very much. On the cruise term, the cruise business, did I hear you say what went out was an RFI, more like an RFI, and we're going to now educate ourselves with the submittals and then put out an RFP of some sort?
Yeah, that's correct, Vice Chair. And a lot has changed. We originally thought that we could put an RFP out to market, and then COVID hit. So when the cruise industry was shuttered, and literally shuttered to the point, as you saw every morning, with cruise ships out at anchor past the breakwater, just coming in for their groceries or stores to maintain their cruise health and safety, the marketplace changed tremendously. A number of those private sector companies' balance sheets and financials look very different compared to what they did before COVID. So we thought, after having a lot of talks with various experts in the industry, it was good to put out that RFI-like vehicle called a draft request for proposal to start getting current information on levels of interest, from investment to cruise outlook to what passengers and community members wanted to see, especially coming on the other side of COVID. So while it's taken us a little bit longer, undeterred as we are, I think we're going to have much better information to start talking as a city family on what the future of cruise looks like here in Los Angeles.
Okay, that makes sense. So I guess a two-parter then. When do you think the RFP goes out on the cruise terminal project? And do you think this delays putting out the RFP for Warehouse One? Because I had thought Warehouse One was maybe going to go out early this year.
Well, it obviously does delay the Warehouse One RFP, but I think both go out this year, probably in the second half, if everything lines up the way we want. We collected the responses on the draft RFP for the Outer Harbor Cruise Terminal on March the 3rd, as I pointed out in the presentation. And our staff now, Mike DiBernardo, Chris Chase, and so many others, are collating that data to get a line of sight on the core pillars that we're going to need. We're going to hustle this up and try to make up for time, even coming out the other side of the pandemic. So we're going to move as quickly as we can in consultation with you, your staff, and you as well. If you see some breaks in the timeline that we can take advantage of, by all means, we're ready to listen.
No, I appreciate that very much. I'd like to be in those discussions. My sense is that that Warehouse One should follow some reasonable certainty on what's happening with the cruise business, because Warehouse One could be of great support to just the economic development of the whole waterfront in support of the cruise business itself. But you guys are the experts on that. I just want to put in a pin in that one and say I'd like to be part of the timing of the discussion on the timing.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's one of the most unique pieces of real estate here and in the entire city, forward facing to the Pacific Ocean. So we'll work closely with you, as we have so far since you've taken office.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Colleagues, I apologize. I have a few more. Is it okay if I keep going, Madam Chair? Thanks. Cabrillo Marina, really, really important. You put out that RFP, it had an award. I would imagine you're negotiating that now, which is going to include some hoteling opportunities. How is those discussions coming?
Here again, all market driven, but that 90,000 square feet of marina pads, another unique opportunity, zoned and correctly permitted already. It's now up to the commercial market to see where we can go. And if you've taken an airplane recently, you know that all flights are full. People are just out there traveling, whether it be for business or with family. We think we're hitting a trajectory right now that could be very intriguing to the private sector. So we'll keep moving that along as well. But I'm interested to see, as you are, the uptake from the private folks on what we could do on the tourism side, especially with hoteliers.
I really appreciate that. I appreciate how you hit on all the issues that we asked for. This is exactly the kind of report that we wanted. If you could, if you and your staff, I see everyone's here and your team, could just put in mind for the future reports to let us know about those hotels, because by city rule and by operation of law, those are union hotels. And so all three of us will care a lot about those.
Right.
Which is great news. Now, something that's very near and dear and close to my heart and very local, the PAIP. It's been a great program, colleagues. It is public access and infrastructure investment in and around the waterfront from Wilmington to San Pedro, and Mr. Soroka spoke on it. You were going to do some fine tuning, and I think you're still sort of thinking through how you fine tune that, make sure that we lock it in for future years. I think it's always been intended to go for the indefinitely, but right now we're in a sort of a 10-year cycle. Do you have thoughts for when you could get to agenda and just clarify for your commit or with your commission that will continue on indefinitely?
Yeah, I think super fast. We've got our last piece of phraseology and red line document in front of your staff right now, just to make sure we're buttoning up everything that we've discussed with you and prepared to meet as you have time in the busy schedule. And then thereafter, we'll agendize and put it to the Harbor Commission as quickly as that 2-week time period allows for us. But it's just a matter of getting your sign off on the last couple of pieces there.
Awesome. Awesome. Good. I'm glad. If I'm the delay, I'm glad that's the case because I have some control over that.
Well, it's been very iterative. So I would say it bounced to your staff and they're ready to talk with you about it probably towards the end of the week. What I do see also is that the public access investment plan, which was simply a dream early on, was put in place in 2015 for a 10-year run.
Mhm.
And it has been just so wildly successful in really getting commitments between the community and the Harbor Department to find where we're going as one into these projects. While it was never meant to be temporary, it was your idea to see what level of permanence we could codify going into the next 10 years and the 10 years beyond. So that's where we're at right now, making sure that those from casual observers to new folks who are coming into town realize that the PAIP is here to stay.
Great, great. I'm really excited to be back in with your body on that. So I will make sure that we get agendized. We have a big check presentation, colleagues, coming from the state of California for the Workforce Training Center. And I think we're doing that, Mr. Soroka, on Friday.
That's correct. Friday at 10 a.m., we are going to have a celebration on the state's $110 million commitment to assist the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles in building the nation's first goods movement training campus. Now, this is part of a bigger career creation strategy that we have here at the Port of Los Angeles, led by our own Aveen Sharma, who is the Director of Workforce Development and Labor Relations. Our ideas started with the late Vice President of our Harbor Commission, Dave Arian, because we knew as technology changed, as our clean air aspirations maybe moved into a different propulsion network than we've seen in the past, we needed to upskill and reskill our current workforce, prepare the next generation of workers. And while very similar to a shopping mall, the ILW Longshore members may be our anchor tenant, there are a whole host of other industry segments that also needed to be attracted, recruited, and retained in our goods movement and supply chain industry. For the young person that's riding their bike to junior high or high school that passes this port every day, they also need a storefront to knock on the door, talk to a counselor, and see how they can get involved. Whether university or two-year community college is their aspiration, or they want to go straight to work after high school, it should be a training campus that's available to all. So we're going to celebrate this very first step, and so important that California Governor Gavin Newsom was able to put this line item in his budget for fiscal 23. We're going to start with a big check event, as we're calling it. Next up is all the necessary work around CEQA and permitting, remediation, and getting the place ready per state, county, and local standards so we can begin with the proper ribbon cutting, shovel in the ground, and building this facility from the ground up. We've got so many people to thank on Friday. So many elected and policymakers are coming in. It's going to be a great start, and our workforce will be front and center on a stage for all to see.
I think this is an absolute game changer. And thank you for remembering Dave Arian, God rest his soul, on this. This is a real dream of his, especially as the industry changes a bit, to make sure that we keep people working. But not to be confused with the PMA Workforce Center, right? And so I just want to thank you and the community, but also give a shout out to my staff. I mean, I don't know if you know, my staff worked really, really, really hard this week with building and safety to get those permits out so that the PMA could begin work on that training center on the island. And I just want to thank them publicly and commit to you on both the Workforce Center and the PMA Training Center that we want to be actively involved every way. And if we can come back on these reports, that would be great as well.
Oh, fantastic. And can't thank you enough for your support. And it's those subtle nuances that really have to be worked on every day, from permitting to making sure folks have the proper land and the construct to be able to do their jobs. And this training that you're speaking of was an output of a very challenging discussion on robotics or automation at the port. And the private sector industry, who is separate and apart from us, had the volition to put up additional training for mechanics to work on this newer, cleaner equipment. But we've got to make sure that that gets delivered. The city and the port were integral in bringing those sides together then, and we've got to stay at it on the ground. So really thank you for all you're doing.
Well, thank you. Colleagues, thanks for letting me ask those questions. This is exactly the kind of report that we wanted, and I hope this is sort of the format and the breadth that we go into, although I expect not to have as many questions as we shape this over the next several quarters of the next 4 years. Thanks a lot. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair McCosker. Appreciate your questions. Councilmember Soto Martinez, do you have anything?
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Soroka. That was such a wonderful presentation. I was very much enchanted by your radio voice. I think if you've satisfied my colleague, Councilmember McCosker, I am satisfied. He's that's his backyard. I have my issue is mostly worker environment, but I think you covered it, and I look forward to the presentation in the next 3 months. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, committee member Soto Martinez, and thank you to my colleagues, all of you. Since this is a regular quarterly report, I would just like to keep this item in committee as there is no action for us to take. And Mr. Soroka, again, thank you for being here today for the wonderful update and the opportunity for us who are new to this committee to have an opportunity to see and hear firsthand the incredible achievements and work that remains underway at the Port of Los Angeles. So thank you for being here, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in the next quarter.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so that will take us to item 5 on today's agenda. Mr. Clerk, if you would please read the item for us.
Yes, Madam Chair. And actually for item number 4, would you like to just go ahead and continue to a future date so we can keep it open?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Item number 5 is a quarterly report on the status of department activities for the Los Angeles World Airports.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe that we have Mr. Urbachi with us here today. Mr. Urbachi, we appreciate you being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Park. And it's always difficult to follow Mr. Soroka, but I can guarantee you that myself and our team have the same passion and the same commitment towards transforming our airports to turn them into the world-class gold standard facilities that this city deserves. So we share in that passion and commitment. With me today to present this is our Chief Development Officer, Terry Mestes. So we're going to kind of tag team this presentation, and our understanding was that you wanted to concentrate on our capital improvement program today, and specifically the airfield and terminal modernization program that we have started embarking on. So we're going to jump in. I think we have a presentation. I'm not sure who's putting that up. Perfect. If we can go to the next slide. So our airports here, it was many years that there was no investment to modernize our airports, and it was long overdue. All of our airports were finding ourselves, not only ours at LAX here, but also many airports in the United States, found ourselves lagging behind the rest of the world who were making a lot of investments in their airports. And so it was time for us to really put the money into this airport to really transform it into what we know it needs to be to meet the demand of this city going forward. And we see ourselves as an airport as our main objective to be an enabler of the economic development of this region. And in order to do that successfully, we have to understand what's coming here, and we have to make sure that we're able to to truly enable that and handle the amount of passengers need to be coming in and out of this Los Angeles region, and in a manner that is providing a comfortable and a safe service level. So that's what we've set out with our capital improvement program to do. It is the largest and most complex capital improvement program in the country right now. And we've kind of split it up into two phases, and that's mainly for how we handle it from a financial perspective. It's really one program, but we have a lot of projects that we had started some time ago, and we have another set that we're starting now. So we're kind of talking about it in two phases to make it easier to understand. Our first phase that we're about 70 to 75% through is a $15 billion capital program that includes many of the projects that you see on the left. So we've already delivered a good part of the projects in this phase, and we have some of the bigger ones that are and important ones that are still in progress but should be delivered within the next 2 years. So you can see here that the projects that we've delivered and things that we're already working in and with the LAX Economy Parking Facility. This is the first project delivered for our landside access and modernization program, which Terry's going to go into in a little bit. And then we have a new airport facility and our west gates at Tom Bradley, which are new international gates. You could see the list, and Terry will go into this a little bit more. In progress are our key landside access modernization program, which includes the automated people mover train and a consolidated rental car facility. These are really important to allow us to provide a better customer experience and to really to mitigate the significant traffic issues that we have for our airport. And this people mover train will also allow us for the first time to connect the airport with the metro. So we'll have a connection as part of this. And again, Terry will get into more of that. We've also kicked off a new set of projects, which we're talking about phase 2. And this will be another $13 to $15 billion program on top of the first phase. And about 70% of that includes a couple of new concourses, and a new roadway system and some other projects that we'll go into in more detail later. But it's a very robust program, and just as important is what we're delivering, is how we're delivering it. And we look forward to coming back in future meetings to talk about this. For example, we are building everything with a project labor agreement in place, one of the strongest and best project labor agreements in the country that's been emulated in many places around the country. And we've had it in place for more than 10 years now, and we've updated it with the trade unions for another 10 years. And this is allowing us to do the work uninterrupted and in paying union wages and creating great jobs for the region. We also are focusing on sustainability. Everything we're doing with sustainability as an objective. No, please go back. Yeah, thank you. And also, just as important as the inclusivity aspect and the workforce development aspect of this, we have some really robust inclusivity programs that we've put in place, as well as workforce development. Our Hire LAX program is one of the best workforce development programs in the country, and been lauded by our Secretary of Transportation, as well as many others in the country. And then, of course, the community is important here as well, in that we are making sure that everything we're doing is being done, mitigating the impacts of what we're doing on the community. And we'll talk about much of the community input that we've done throughout this process, but also most recently for the airfield and terminal modernization project. So with that, I'll let Terry go and talk about a little bit more detail about the phase 1 of the program, and then we'll get into the airfield and terminal modernization program next.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So phase 1 of our capital improvement program, as Justin said, we finished about 70% of the 105 projects that were included in that program. The 35 projects that are remaining, the The larger ones are in LAMP. They are the automated people mover, our SkyTrain, and also looking to wrap up our consolidated rental car facility. We do have some terminal work ongoing. There's some slides later on where we're going to show you some of that work, and then some smaller projects. As Justin said, sustainability has been a big focus. Our larger projects, where we can, they're all LEED certified. And for all of our projects, again, as Justin said, we have inclusivity goals where we set small business goals, and all of our industry partners work very hard to meet all of those and exceed them as well. Slide, please. So this is a site plan showing you the LAMP program, our Landside Access Modernization Program. Maybe we could just look at the site plan to start with. To the far right of that map, you can see our consolidated rental car facility. That is the largest rental car facility in the world. It has about 18,000 parking spots. It's also the second largest concrete structure behind the Pentagon. It's also the largest fueling station. And so that project, the building is pretty much complete. Right now, our rental car partners are doing their tenant fit outs to be able to move into that facility. And so you also see there that the rectangular box, that is our EPM station that starts, our SkyTrain station that starts at the rental car facility. So you can come to the rental car facility, jump on the SkyTrain, and then start your journey. Journey takes about 10 minutes. The SkyTrain guideway track there is about 2.25 miles, and with 6 stops. So it's really exciting. You're going to take that SkyTrain from the rental car facility over to our parking facilities, ITF East and ITF West, or the economy parking. And then from there, you're going to go right into the airport, into the CTA with some additional stops where you can get to any of the terminals. That project, we're ready to start commissioning here soon. We're getting all the trains in, and so soon as you go to LAX, you'll see that train traffic going back and forth. In addition to that, our ITF West, or the economy parking facility, has a lot of great technology to it. You can make a parking reservation well in advance of your trip to the airport and actually be guided to your exact parking spot. So it really takes the stress out of coming to the airport and parking. It's been really well utilized. And I think we'll go to the next slide, please. So this is a site plan showing you all of the terminal development that we've been doing. We've done a lot of work at different terminals. Delta has been working on Terminal 3. That has been just a beautiful terminal there. We also have a lot of the Terminal 4s projects. So the 4s are intended to link up to the SkyTrain bridges. So after you get off of the SkyTrain, you're going to come across a bridge. You're going to get to this 4, and you're going to be able to have vertical circulation that takes you down to the different levels within the airport and move around. So a lot of those have been completed. Some of them are underway of being completed. We've also done a lot of work on our baggage systems and other improvements as well. So our phase 2 of our capital improvement program, as Justin said, it's another $15 billion. You can see the dial here on the right-hand side. It shows you the distribution of the dials for the different types of projects that we have going on. About 70% of this new capital improvement program is actually on the 18P, which consists of 4 projects, starting from the upper right-hand part of the dial. It's Concourse 0, Terminal 9, the airfield work, and the roads. So these, the $15 billion covers all of the costs to fully support the projects. That's the hard costs, soft costs, any environmental work that's associated with the projects, and some other work in there too. It is capped at $15 billion, so we will not be exceeding that amount. We'll be doing all of the work on the
Yeah, and just to follow up, to remind people that the way that we fund these projects is we don't take any money from the general fund, the city's general fund. In order to pay for this, we have several mechanisms The biggest of which is that we go out and we sell bonds to pay for this, and we pay off the debt with the operating revenues that we make every year. We also have gotten a lot of grants from the government, and we pay for some of it with operating profit as well on top of our debt payment. So it's not coming from the general fund. We're self-sustaining here for these improvements. I think next, Terry mentioned that in phase 2, a big part of that, 70% of it, is the airfield and terminal modernization project. And just to give a little background on the etymology of this project, it's a project that was necessary to accommodate that future demand that we spoke about. We get to a point, we already know that we're getting to a point where we're busting at the seams here in our terminals and in our airfield. And if we're to grow further, as is projected by SCAG, by the Southern California Association of Governments, which is the planning group for this region, we really need to do whatever we can to add additional facilities and to make sure that the traffic on the runways and in and out of the airport is improved significantly. And that's what the airfield and terminal modernization project is all about. We're projections for passenger traffic over the next years, according to SCAG, and actually we've constrained SCAG's forecast to reduce the amount. But right now we're anticipating that we'll have 100 million passengers per year in 2028. And to give you some context there, before the pandemic, we had 88 million passengers coming in through a year. So it's a significant increase in passengers that are forecasted to be coming to LAX. And so in order to be able to provide the proper service level and to meet that demand, we have to do some additional work on our facilities. That's a big part of it. So we have the airfield improvements to improve the safety on the North Airfield and to reduce idling. We don't want to have passengers and aircraft staying on the ground any longer than they have to get to and from their gates. And so this is a big part about it. And the FAA has been working with us for a long time to try to get us to do these improvements. The roadway improvements also are very important to separate out airport traffic from local traffic and to reduce the congestions in and around the neighborhoods near the airport. And, if we don't do these improvements on the roadways and the airfield, when this additional traffic comes, it's going to lead to further congestion, which will not make this airport a very comfortable place to be. We had, during this process of putting the airfield terminal modernization program together, we worked very, very closely with our key stakeholders and with the community. And we were able to, as part of the environmental program, we worked out agreements with the SEIU and with El Segundo. And we had made commitments to the Neighborhood Council of Westchester Playa, which allowed us to have this environmental go through without any lawsuits. And it's very important that we did this, and very important that we maintain the mitigation measures that we've put in place as part of this. And so we have robust mitigation measures which were adopted not only through our agreements with the neighborhoods and unions and the neighborhood councils, but also per the environmental that we filed and that were approved. So with that background, I'll let Terry give you more in depth as to what this projects will look like.
Yeah, if we could go back one slide, please. Thank you. So I'm excited to talk about Concourse 0 and Terminal 9. Those are two of our really outward-facing projects that are really going to change the landscape of the airport. So Concourse 0 will be located where LAX is right now. We have another project that will move LAX to those remote parking facilities that I talked about earlier. So Concourse 0 is an extension of Terminal 1. There will be no public straight into Concourse Zero. You'll still get through Concourse Zero through Terminal 1 and make a right-hand turn and walk, and you'll be to the new section, Concourse Zero. It is for domestic and international travel. It's about 665,000 square feet, 3 levels, 9 new narrow body gates, 4 wide body gates. It will have new baggage claim devices, sterile corridor for international arrivals, and really looking to put in place an exciting concessions program. I'll show you a rendering of Concourse Zero here in the next slide. But I'll jump to Terminal 9. So Terminal 9 is one of the larger terminals. It'll be about 1.4 million square feet, 3 levels. It'll be 18 narrow body gates with 12 wide body gates. It will have an associated parking structure. So you can see that image there. If you look at the bottom of the slide on the right, it's the one that's more towards the center of the slide there. You can see there's a parking garage. There's going to be a SkyTrain or automated people station right there, so you can take the SkyTrain to Terminal 9. There'll also be roadways that will take you directly to Terminal 9, so you can drive all the way there, park, and enter the new terminal, or take the SkyTrain. So it'll be really easy to access it. Terminal 9 is located on the other side of Sepulveda. So as a pedestrian, if you're at the airport, you'll go over a pedestrian bridge to reach Terminal 9. This terminal is also for domestic and international travel. Again, looking for this terminal to really be an exciting space with exciting concessions and really elevate the guest experience. So with that, why don't we go to some of the renderings on the next slide. So this rendering here is of Terminal 9. Where we are in the development of this project is we are in the requirements definition phase of the project. This is figuring out what the requirements are so that we can put this out in procurement to bring on the designer and the builder. So the rendering that you hear is very much conceptual, and it will likely change once we bring a designer on board. So you can see the body of the terminal, and then there's a bridge that takes you to the parking structure. About 550 parking spaces are anticipated. And then if you keep moving right, you see the SkyTrain station right there. Go to the next slide, please. So this is a conceptual rendering of Concourse Zero. So this is a airline-led project. It's being led by Southwest. They've already brought on board their contractor and design team, so we're working very closely with them. So this is really completing the Concourse Zero on one side and Tina on the other. So on Concourse Zero, we've introduced some great windows or fenestration that actually take your view all the way to the other side onto the air side. So a lot of great natural light coming in, and a lot of great views as a guest while you're in that terminal. And we're working very closely with our roadways project to look at both vehicular and pedestrian access all around there, but it will really create a new edge as you enter the airport. Let's go to the next slide, please. So we have several other projects within our 2022 capital improvement program. Just going down the list here quickly. Wayfinding is a large program. We're actually in the wayfinding of our signage program, both front of house and back of house, all over the airport, both interior and exterior. This is looking at static signs and also digital signs. As part of this project, we're also looking to beautify the facades of our parking garages, potentially with some cladding, some landscape material, and also some digital signage. The next one on the list there is our landscaping project. So this is really creating a new front yard to the airport. Right now, there's a lot of project staging areas, a lot of hard surfaces. So we're introducing some beautiful landscaping, some plaza areas, areas for potential concessions, where if you have a layover or you come to the airport early, you could come to this beautiful area and really enjoy the theme building, which you see located in that image, that rendering, conceptual rendering that's on the screen. This one has been procured. It's going to be a design build procurement, or it is a design build procurement. And we recently took that to the board. So we'll be starting on that project here very soon. The Tom Bradley optimization, that's really to enhance the passenger experience. So that project is in the very early stages of definition. We have our new midfield satellite concourse, which is an extension of the brand new midfield satellite concourse north. This is going to be a really exciting construction. It's being done in a modular way. We're doing a lot of the construction offsite. It allows for a wider array of local workers to come and work on the project, as opposed to going through all the security requirements of working on the airfield. And it will have a beautiful breezeway. We're looking forward to showing you that project here very soon. And we're going to be starting construction on that project later this year. The landside access modernization is really what I mentioned earlier. It's moving LA exit and creating some new curbs at our other remote parking facilities to allow our taxis, cabs, Ubers, and lifts to be located there, and really alleviating some of the congestion in the airport. And then we have some ongoing roadway improvements and always work on the technology side with our digital marketplace and some of our other projects.
Yeah, if I jump in here, Terry, and the digital marketplace is key to providing a much improved customer experience. So we're building these beautiful facilities that really will be world class, but those facilities are by themselves are no good if we don't cater to the passenger and their needs when they're in those facilities. And that's what the digital marketplace is all about. And the digital marketplace concept behind that is to give the passenger the ability to plan and control their journey through their mobile device or whatever digital device they want, even before they get to the airport. So we have already started to implement different components of this, and we will continue to add further components and start to integrate them so we can have a better journey for our customers. So we already have in place, as Terry mentioned, the smart parking technology, which is done in conjunction with our new parking facility, and which we're implementing now in all of our central terminal area parking lots. And this is allows you to pre-book your parking and pay for it, and all before. We also have a food and beverage ordering system where you can, before you get to the airport or at the airport, go on your phone and order food and beverage and pick it up at the concession stand or have it delivered to your gate or wherever you're waiting for your flight. We're in the process of developing common use lounges where people can go, and if they don't belong to an airline lounge, they can pay some money and they can have a lounge experience. Again, pre-booking that. We also have, we're piloting and about to expand on this pilot service where you can reserve a 15-minute window for your TSA checkpoint opportunity. So if you go on before, you can schedule a 15-minute slot that if you come during that time, you go to the front of the TSA line. And we're going to continue to offer different types of amenities for people once they're here, things that they might want to do otherwise while they're waiting for their flights. Things we already have virtual gaming. We're going to be expanding that. If you think virtual golf while you're waiting for your flight, things like a haircut. We're also going to be implementing arrivals lounges. So when you arrive here at the airport, if you're going to, if you want to take a shower or do some work before you go off to where your meetings are, where you're going to meet your people, you can do that. So they're going to continue to provide different services and amenities to passengers and allow them to plan their journey and pre-book those amenities so that they can know what their journey is going to be like, and it can be very pleasant while they're at the airport. So many different exciting things that we're doing to help transform this airport. We're so excited to be able to deliver them, and they can't come soon enough, but they're very exciting. And one other important project that I know that is touching upon something that is was a subject of a further discussion or a further motion that was brought up. But one of the biggest projects we have ongoing right now is our receiving station X. And that is, we're building our own power receiving station in the northwest corner of the airport. And that's essential for us because right now we get our power from the same receiving station as half of the neighborhood surrounding the airport. And many of those have lines up in the air, and we get impacted as an airport of our size. We get impacted when a squirrel gets into a line, or when a Mylar balloon hits a power line, or a couple of months ago, we had the winds that knocked down some cross arms on a light pole, and it impacts the power here. So by having our own receiving station and with everything underground, that's going to deliver much more reliable and power to us. So we're really looking forward to getting that in place as well. So I think at that point we'll stop, because we've been talking probably a little longer than we should, but we get excited about this stuff. We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, I am super excited about all of this as well. And with tourism anticipated to hit pre-pandemic levels, and if we're actually going to be seeing those numbers in years to come, hitting, even more millions of passengers than we have expected. I think I heard you say 100 million.
111 million by 2028.
111 million passengers coming through. That is absolutely remarkable. And we all know that we have some major events headed to Los Angeles, the World Cup and the Olympics and other things. And I just couldn't be more proud of the work that you, Justin, and your team at LAWA have done to make sure that LAX is a world-class airport and an amenity that all of us in the city of Los Angeles can be proud of. The economic development opportunities that you have enabled through what is, and I didn't even know this, the largest capital improvement project in the country is pretty
airport for the airport. Yes.
Yeah. So that's just amazing. And, with the people mover connecting LAX and Metro, Conrac is going to change the way people move in and around LAX, the focus on electrical vehicles, the charging infrastructure that you've invested in, the tech and app-based systems that you're thinking about, the incredible and extensive sustainability and green initiatives that you've incorporated into the planning, improving airfield safety, and your engagement with the community. All of that is work that you should be proud of and to be commended for. So I appreciate this very thoughtful and thorough update on the capital improvement work that's going on. And I have a few questions, and then I'll kick it over to my colleagues. One of the things that I was aware of, certainly during the pandemic, was the increase in air cargo coming through LAX. And I'm wondering if you could just talk to us a little bit about, what that increase was and whether and to what extent that is also being incorporated into some of these exciting modernization efforts that you're making.
Yes, thank you for that question, because I think we've failed to mention the cargo project that we are doing. So cargo is, we've really increased the amount of cargo that is coming through LAX during the pandemic. So before the pandemic, we did about 2 million tons of cargo a year. And a year ago, we did almost 3 million. So it's quite a big increase. Now that's tapered off as the industry has generally, but we're still, somewhere between 2.6, 2.7, maybe even 2.8. We'll have to see what the final numbers are. But so it's still significant, and it will continue to increase. We could actually do a lot more cargo here at this airport if we had the facilities to be able to enable the cargo. We wouldn't even have to have any additional aircraft coming here, just taking advantage of the space in the aircraft here. We just don't have the facilities here to handle the amount of cargo that could come here. And that's why we're embarking on a cargo modernization program, where we're going to have take a phased approach towards replacing many of the outdated facilities that we have here and building more sustainable and more innovative concepts and buildings here, so that we can increase the amount of cargo that we can handle on the ground. And so that's going to be a long project. We have an RFP out right now for that, and we probably will be coming from this committee very soon with an award on that one. Yeah, we're excited about the cargo.
Good to hear that. So, one of the things that you had hit on were, the PLAs that you have in place. And when I think about not only the economic engine that is LAX, but the provider of jobs, both inside LAWA at the airport, as well as outside on the construction and development side, that is pretty extensive. And I think that those opportunities are just important workforce development and economic development. And I wanted you, if you would, tell us a little bit more about the Hire LAX program. It's something that I think is an awesome initiative that you guys are working on. And I have a feeling that my co-committee members would be interested in hearing a little bit more about it as well. So maybe you could talk to us about it.
Oh, happy to. It's actually, I always say that my favorite part of my job is going to the Hire LAX graduations, which there's one coming up, I think, this Friday, actually. So I look forward to attending those. The Hire LAX program is an apprenticeship program that we're doing in conjunction with Southwest Community College and the Federation of Trade Laborers, so the unions there. And it's been a great program where we take people from the local community who otherwise would have difficulty getting employment because of the fact that they're homeless, or they have history with the criminal justice system, or they just haven't had the opportunity because of the community or the situation in which they were raised. And it gives these people an opportunity to engage in an 8-week training course. And when they finish this 8-week training course, they are then eligible to be hired as an apprentice in by one of the construction projects, and they usually end up selecting one trade or another to get into. And we have had many of them. I think we've had more than 250 people get hired of the 300. So we have a very high rate of people that go through this program and get hired. And these are people that suddenly went from not having much of a future to having a high-paying profession that will transform not only their lives, but their families' lives and lives of their future generations of their family. And seeing some of the stories of some of these people who have come through, it's heartwarming, and it's emotional, and not only for them, but for me and everybody who hears the stories. So we're looking to expand on this, on the Hire LAX program, and we're hoping to get an earmark from the federal government to be able to help us to expand it. And we're also taking this model and looking to other areas where we need workforce here. To explain it, we're talking right now with another local community college to see if we can do something in the area of aircraft mechanics, and working with the airlines as well. So we want to try to emulate this program and put it in different areas where we can create even more jobs for the local community.
Well, Mr. Abachi, if there's anything that I or my office can do to help your efforts to secure that funding or to grow that program, we're all in to do that. And that does sort of segue into the next question I wanted to ask about, which is, with so many incredible opportunities for new business and economic development in and around the airport, do you have any stats or data? And if you don't, you weren't expecting this question, but the extent to which the airport is partnering with women and minority-owned local business to help really create and spread those opportunities around to some of our diverse communities?
Yes, it's a great question. There's this whole concept of, we title it inclusivity normally, is, one of our objectives is we are spending so much money that we want to do everything we can to ensure that the groups that are benefiting from the monies that we're spending are reflective of the demographics of this city. And we know that we're woefully deficient in doing that. We recently did a study with LMU, and as a prelude to a disparity study that we want to conduct very soon. And we see that we're not very good at it. And even despite implementing a lot of different types of programs that we have. So we do, because of Proposition 209, most of our focus is around small and local businesses. That's what we can evaluate based upon and set targets for. So we do that. And some of the things that we've done more recently is we've it used to be that it was just a percentage that was set, and it was a check the box for the contractors, and they would, it would be an aspirational goal in a sense that there would be no repercussions if they didn't meet that. So what we've done is we've actually taken the inclusivity aspect, and not only the targets, but how they want to achieve the targets and what other types of programs are they going to offer, such as workforce development, mentorship, and these types of things. So we asked for that a whole approach towards inclusivity, and we had set aside points in the RFP process for that. So if those people who offer a more robust proposal and exceed the targets that we put in place are going to get higher marks in that. Then we also then take whatever is committed to in the proposals and we put that in the contract. So if they don't achieve them, then they get dinged economically as well. So we put some sting to that as well. So those are things, but we know we have to do more. And so we're looking at further ways that we can do it. We're working very closely with minority businesses and women businesses to help them to get certified, to give them technical support. With our concessions, we are working very closely to provide assistance to our minority concession businesses, and trying to nurture and get more minority concession businesses in place. So we have a robust program, but we need to do more, and we're continuing to look for new ways to increase that participation from the various groups within the city.
Well, thank you for that. And it certainly seems as though there's a lot of opportunities for us as policymakers to help empower small women and minority-owned businesses, to help them grow and scale so that they become ultimately more competitive as well. So one final question, we want to reduce congestion around our neighborhoods and get people onto public transit. And I'm super excited about the People Mover. But I want to ask you, how are you thinking about and preparing for rider safety as you near completion on that project and get ready to launch?
Right. So we are, we have the largest airport police force in the country, and we have a great chief of police here in Cecil Rambo, and we're working very closely together to develop a plan as to how we're going to have special units to make sure that as we extend the airport 2.25 miles to the east, with the CONRAC, with the parking lot, and with the People Mover train, that we are actively having a presence in those areas to try to deter any type of problems that we have there. We've been able to implement here within the central terminal area a type of I don't want to call it a curfew. It initially started as a curfew, but it's a mechanism by which we only allow people who have business at the airport to be in the terminals. And so we're working to try to expand on that to make sure that we're able to keep the People Mover trains and the areas around these new facilities. And indeed, as we build the green areas and the open spaces here in the central terminal area, to make sure that we're making those safe as possible. And it really goes down to having a presence there. And that's what we're working on with the chief to try to figure out how we can best do that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I don't have any other questions right now. Vice Chair McCosker, do you have any questions?
Oh, just a couple little ones, but I want to say that very exciting, all of the amenities. When you're all done, I'm thinking of buying a cheap ticket just so I can get to the terminal for a spa day.
Exactly. But it's good. It's going to be, we want it to be a place where people look forward to coming and
Right,
to come,
right.
as opposed to a
right.
place where they dread coming.
Thank you. Actually, how are you connecting? I heard you talk about connecting the Green Line to the airport. How does that connection happen? I mean, I know that through no fault of yours or ours, it doesn't connect today. So what's the plan?
Right. So our automated people mover train will have a station that will be directly on top and next to the airport connector that is part of the K line. I think it's going to be the new K line.
Yeah.
So people can get off one and just take an escalator and elevator to the other, and vice versa.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. So folks will get on the people mover with their bags, and the bag security check-in will still be at the various terminals 0 through 9.
Yes, for now, we're working with the airlines to try to develop a mechanism by which people can divest themselves of their bags at different points along the automated people mover station, and indeed throughout the city. We're really big on that. We'd really love to implement. We actually have put aside the infrastructure to be able to accommodate that type of a service. We just need to work with the airlines and push the airlines to adopt this, because we can't do it without them. But
Right.
I mean, the last thing we want to do is have people getting on a train and coming to the terminals with their bags if they don't need to.
I really appreciate that. In a former life, I remember the plans to renovate the airport, and it was called Alternative D. This is a long time ago. And Alt D had a people mover, and the people mover had a basically a centralized check-in area. And this was just post 9/11. So there was a lot of issues around whether we had the technology and the ability to check stuff in distantly. So I really.
The technology's there. The technology's there. This airport is a little more challenging because we have 9 terminals.
Yeah.
So, and the logistics around getting bags from an outside location to 9 different terminals is a challenge, but it's not something that can't be surpassed. But the technology is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just getting people to be comfortable with the policy around it, and
Right.
we're working hard on that, because I would love it if people don't have to come to the airport with their bags. That would be the best
Sure.
thing all around. And you just think that when you check out of your hotel, you just leave your bag and it gets delivered. There's no reason for you to have to schlep it all the way into the airport. So that's
Sure.
that's the far future, but we're looking to see how we want to get there.
And I remember being sort of anticipating that someday we'll get to 70 million, and 70 million seemed like a gigantic number, and you're going to be 45 over that and probably go north of that again. So thank you very much for the great presentation. I really appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I don't have any more questions. Thanks, Chair.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair McCosker. Councilmember Soto Martinez, do you have any questions?
No question, Madam Chair. Just thank you, Mr. Abachi and Mrs. Mesas. I spent a lot of time at the airport with my previous employer, so happy to see the development and the workers are taken into account. And this is a good example of a wonderful partnership that works for everybody. But thank you again for the presentation.
Thank you, Councilman.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Soto Martinez. Well, so since this is a regularly scheduled quarterly report, what I would like to do is continue this item in the committee until a date to be determined. Mr. Clerk, do we have anything else before the committee this afternoon?
The desk is clear, Madam Chair.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Verano. Before we adjourn today's meeting, however, I would like to make a very special announcement that today is William Ayala's birthday. It is a great privilege to have William on my staff, from managing day-to-day office operations with his artistic eye to the smile he always wears on his face. William is an integral part of this team and the city family. He has been employed by the city of Los Angeles for 18 years, and I am incredibly honored and proud to have him as a member of the CD11 staff. So I wish William good health, much happiness, and I adjourn today's meeting in his honor while all of our CD11 staffers head over to the conference room for cupcakes. All right, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you all. We'll see you at our next meeting. Have a great day.
I'll be over in a second for a cupcake.
All right, we'll be here. And Hugo, you're welcome to. Come on over.
Thank you.
See you guys.